little thing to watch here. One little thing. And it has to do with old gods. And I really wanted to see what it was about. There are vendors in the middle of the map. I can't remember the name of the zone that sells these 5 packs of shovels and rep. Oh, very cool. You should buy them. Keep them in your bag. Keep them in your bags at the time because it allows you to dig up little piles of dirt that have tons of good rep in them and loot and other things. Another very cool feature. Like I said, there's a lot of little secrets going on. A lot of little secrets in the Dragon Isles that have yet to be discovered, and that just adds to the game so much. It's nice to see. Okay, let me pause the music. Let's watch this. New hints about the old gods being in the Dragon Isles. Now, we did get a very cool little quest line, right? We went through, this was while we were leveling up, and we actually went to Nyalotha, right? And our good old boy Nazath was looking at us, and he dropped a line on us saying, "I know who you are and who you will become." Now, to me, that sent shivers down my spine. I was like, oh, shit, man. There's some old god shit going on here. And we did see as well the Deathwing cinematic where he was, he had accepted the gift of the old gods and he had gone full old god crazy man. So we'll see what this has to say about it. But there's definitely some old god influence early on in this expansion. And who knows where that might take us. But Doran evidently thinks he knows. So let's see what he has to say real quick. I really need to check out those shovels because chat's going wild about them, so I'll have to look at them.
Dragonflight is out, and there is already a ton of information in regards to the old gods, and their presence on the Dragon Isles is starting to get obvious. Despite no outright clues, like we haven't seen Yoxoron directly, there are a million different hints, from zone names being similar to void minions on the isles to old god magic being
there's plenty of old god shit going on in the Dragon Isles, that's for sure.
Still being alive and being the force that corrupted Galakrond that essentially triggered the creation of the dragon aspects. We have new whispers from the time travel to the Black Empire and a bunch more stuff. So stay tuned for the video as I'm going to be covering every
I'm going to log in and buy those
that
shovels.
we currently
Everyone's
have
talking
in
about.
Dragonflight. If you're looking for cheap games at amazing prices, check out this video sponsor, Gamivo. You can get everything from games to software, gift cards, and
I saw Bellular did post that video about Ysera. I'm a little bit scared to watch it because of spoilers, but maybe we will later.
Make sure to click the link in the description
Good morning, Sinful.
below. What is really important to note is that the Dragon Isles are not
It's full of
actually
spoilers?
a new
Okay, yeah.
concept.
I'll
It's
probably
not like
avoid it
something
then.
they just came up with, despite just being released. They were an idea as far as Warcraft 2, and in classic World of Warcraft, they were actually supposed to be a zone. In fact, they weren't just an idea like they had on a board.
Conflicting
They
opponent.
literally had a prototype version of this zone, and then they ended up scrapping it, but they essentially built like half of it, so it was a pretty
This whole
well-developed
old god
concept.
Dragon
The
Isles
prototype
thing has
version
been in
was
the game
supposed to be
since
like
vanilla.
an old god infested area with a gigantic old god temple right in the center of the zone. I'm guessing at the time Blizzard couldn't pull this off, so they decided to save it for later, and nearly
They
2
left it in the
decades
game.
after the fact,
It was
they
in there.
added the Dragon Isles. Now, obviously, a lot of stuff changed, a lot of lore changed, a lot of stuff was retconned since then, but I don't really believe they fully scrapped the significant old god involvement on the Isles. Like, we don't have an old god temple, but there might be something similar. Now,
True.
here is where things get really confusing. So, initially, we believed that the Dragon Isles were right in the center, near the World of Eternity, which honestly makes the most amount of sense.
It does
but
make sense.
Right now, just like the Centaur lore, this bit is kind of unclear. It's kind of like nowhere.
They haven't-
The
yeah,
Legacies
they haven't
animated
mentioned it
series
directly in the
confirmed
game.
That almost certainly the Dragon Isles were isles and weren't a part of the single mega continent that was known as Kalimdor, which
That's
is
a
essentially
retcon.
every other zone that we currently have, which means almost certainly they were around the current location, so northeast of the mega continent that was known as Kalimdor. Why they were not on that original
Maybe.
Chronicle map? I'd say it's because they didn't really think of it through at the time, but the lore answer is probably the Titans didn't want us to learn about this place, so they hid it even from the ancient maps. Otherwise, like, people would try to reach it and search for the Dragon Isles. Unfortunately, this bit breaks a really interesting theory that I've seen around the community, which right now may be more of a coincidence than it is actually true, but someone compared the Black Empire map, where you could see like the old god territory, the territory of the vassals, the elemental elemental lords. Now, the place where Terrazane was, like this tiny bit of territory, and we believe that the Dragon Isles was at the same place as well, suspiciously looked like Teldrassus. The shape of the zone, the mountains looked eerily similar, and the name is also super similar. Terrazane, Teldrassus. Plus, you see elemental influence like everywhere, like the entire Isles is like the elemental plane itself. It's just filled with elementals all over the place. However, now this most likely isn't the case, and instead, if we once again compare it to the Black Empire map, it is almost certain that this territory was under the control of Yogg-Saron. Of course, we can see the Isles in the original map, but this would kind of fall under his region of control all those years in the past. Keep in mind, like this map from the Chronicle that we have is like thousands and thousands of years old, so way before the Titans ever came in, literally like 200,000 years, if not more, could be like could be like 500,000 years ago. When you think about it, this makes total sense, as we learned that it was Yogg-Saron that had corrupted the water source and created Galakrond, as he was way too familiar with this land, and he was
Old God involvement is already known, but how deep does it go?
Logical sense that Galakrond ended up in Northrend, where his bones currently are, or the northern part of the original Kandor mega continent, as if the Isles were here, this was essentially next door. However, once again, this entire geographical part is not exactly all that clear, so we're not really working with all that much concrete information at the moment. Now, what we do have is a really interesting scenario with Chromie and Dragonflight, where we travel to the top of the
that's the quest I was talking about before the video started.
Glory. Although I wouldn't really say full glory, as this was the time when the Black Empire was just getting established, so it was probably sometime when the old gods just arrived. As you know, with the lore, originally the elemental lords ruled, then the old gods came in, fought them, and enslaved them. Well, this scenario that you have is sort of the transitional period where you can see the elemental lords fighting in the background. So
that's right. I didn't even think about that. I was saying, why are these elementals fighting these old gods? That makes sense. This was like their initial invasion of Azeroth, and that was the fight. Was the elementals versus the old gods.
Old god influence. Now here we have some very interesting whispers that are actually excellent hints for what will happen. Some of these are old, some of these are super relevant to what we have. Her dreams sing beneath the surface. Our dreams, our song. Really, this ties in perfectly
these quotes were
with the
amazing.
that we learned from the Dragonflight art book that was also just released. Essentially, the lore
then the Titans came after the elements and were enslaved.
What we can extrapolate at the moment is that Azeroth is not actually a Titan like whatsoever. Instead, it is almost certainly elemental and magic, which makes total sense because elementals are really the true native.
I still don't know about
this.
So
it really seems like elemental magics are just powerful magics without a specific purpose, possibly tied to the first ones. So the old gods came in, they started corrupting it, pumping it with the void. This is further confirmed with the other whispers that we see. Deeper its roots will reach, welcoming our embrace. Seeing that we know that the old gods literally
then the Titans came after
super deep into the crust of Azeroth, they were without a doubt.
Don't forget, I mean, the whole underground thing, I don't know how the lore works anymore, but Deathwing, you know, the corruption and the creation of Deathwing happened while he was slumbering underground, essentially. He was underground, that was where he lived, and the whispers of the old gods eventually corrupted him. Now, the new lore says, well, he was kind of talking to the old gods and accepted their gift willingly. But either way, that story supposedly happens underground. So that's why the whole thing, are they under the Dragon Isles? Maybe.
Pumping void energies into Azeroth.
I mean, I would say yes, but are they going to be there in this expansion? I don't know.
Void Titan and to essentially win the cosmological war. Well, then the Titans came in to save the day, but with the current info, in all actuality, they were almost certainly just the competitors of the old gods, so they decided to get rid of the Black Empire to once again discard and imprison the native elementals that are probably really the only ones with a true right to rule Azeroth, and then they established their own facilities and their own servant races. So this was essentially Black Empire 2.0, just a lot nicer and a lot more sophisticated, and they also deleted a lot more history. Instead of the old god energies, they started pumping order, arcane into Azeroth, and they gave us the story that Azeroth is one of their own. With the Curse of Flesh and the old gods breaking the Titan grip and the Titan defeat against Regeras, they also kind of failed in this mission to take over Azeroth, so now we're sort of at this weird crossroads of these great empires' goals, and we are really going to learn what actually went down and who Azeroth actually is.
Right.
Now, with this being Yogg-Saron's territory more than likely, it is not a surprise at all that in the just released Exploring Azeroth Northern book, we learned that Yogg-Saron has only been contained, but that his presence is still active in Northern, so he was defeated, but
I didn't know this.
essentially they're soft confirming that he is alive and he is around. I really wouldn't say this is a coincidence that they would give us this exact information at this exact time. Now, at the same time, we already have the Void Agents or the Twilight Siam clan on the Isles. We have a huge storyline with the Black Dragon Flight getting their own ass.
I don't think any of this is a coincidence. I definitely think there's old god involvement here, and there's going to be. But how much? Like, is the final boss of the Dragonflight going to be an old god?
To destroying themselves, so the entire
I don't know. We had an expansion like that already.
That Dragonflight Legacies Part 3 where Netarian was fighting the Primal Incarnates, and the guy literally just full on unleashed old god powers against the Incarnates. Keep in mind, this was like 10,000 years before the Sundering, before he went insane and full on joined the old gods, so he has obviously been wielding these powers for quite a bit of time. This means that since Netarian obviously had access to their magic, their presence was 100% strong on the Isles, as this literally used to be a part of their territory. There is even a speculation that a fifth old god exists that could be related to Zelatat right on the Dragon Isles, although that really is a topic for another video, and I have an entire video on the theory if you want to check it out. Now, essentially, every single expansion...
Joshua says, I just thought of something. N'Zoth read our minds, and now he knows how we defeated him and could change that. Well, I mean, that was the cool thing about his line in that quest, right? I know who you are and who you will become. He knows. He knows. He knows that we eventually, from that time, when we went to the timeline, I don't know if that's going to do anything. Maybe, I don't know if playing with time is a good thing. But we went there, and when N'Zoth saw us, he saw the future, essentially. He knew what these, this band of heroes was going to become later on down the line. And part of what we become is we become the people who kill him, essentially, with our friendship powers and our Azerite necklaces. But does that change? I don't know. Is there a way for N'Zoth back into the game? Yes, I think there are infinite ways for N'Zoth to come back and his arc to kind of be redeemed in a cool way. But does it happen in Dragonflight? That's the question.
We get these old god whispers that kind of lead us nowhere.
Messing with time is never good, yeah.
This might finally be the actual expansion. I know
he is the weakest, yes,
to literally everything
but the smartest.
Number 5, but now things are a lot more clearer than they were in Shadowlands, for example, and the story is like legitimately heavily leaning into the old god narrative, so it kind of makes sense. 5 keys to light our path. We have the 5 Oath Stones and the 5 Dragon aspects. The Lord of Ravens will turn the key. We have Khadgar back and potentially Medivh, and of course the good old the Golden One claims Awakened Throne, which indeed he currently does, and he might be bringing some darkness. Overall, I don't think it is a coincidence.
Yeah, we haven't played with that side of the story yet either.
Now,
the Alliance.
I'm not sure if the old gods are really going to establish themselves in Dragonflight, and personally, I really wish we wouldn't get like a new N'Zoth patch, but like an entire expansion that leads into them to actually give the story proper justice. With Blizzard seeing how they plan to make the expansions transition in a more seamless way and not as contained as before, this could also be a really good setup for something big to happen after Dragonflight involving the old gods. Thank you for watching. Check out more information on how the Titans enslaved Azeroth exactly by clicking on the screen, and check out Donut's Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.
We speculated about old god involvement before we even started playing Dragonflight, right? We talked about it early on before I were playing the game, and now we see that there is indeed old god involvement. It's been showing up in quest lines and stuff. So does that mean that the old god involvement is going to become more and more, and we're going to see old gods at the end of the expansion? I think we're going to see something. We're going to see something, that's for sure. I don't think they'd be laying these little eggs here all over the place before the end game, and there's not going to be involvement by them. I definitely think there's going to be involvement and continued growing involvement.